Okay. It says we are live on my end. Are either of you able to go to YouTube and verify?
I've
My
got
end.
I've got the page up. Oh, here it is.
Yep, it shows
It's
us
in a
live in my
separate place.
subscriptions.
All right. In that case, give us a few seconds, Phil, and take us out.
All right then. Should be long enough. Hello, welcome everyone to PolyCast episode 444. I'm the main team, joined by Makalua
Now properly caffeinated for all this patch notes.
and Mega Bears fan.
And hopefully this time you will not all have to listen to all those insufferable Discord chimes that kept coming up every time I hit my push to talk button in the last recording. But please let me know in the comments if there are any other issues with the sound or audio quality. And also, if it sounds good, let me know that too, so I don't have to stress about it.
It gets a chime the Bears signed Aaron Rodgers.
Oh my god, what, are you trying to make me nauseous?
That would certainly be a surprising update if that happened.
And it wouldn't even be the dumbest thing they've done.
I don't. Well, it depends how much they pay him.
I still remember making a big deal about signing Mike Glennon and then giving him like a big contract, and people were like, "What the hell are you thinking?" And then they traded up to draft Mitch Trubisky anyway, and then it was like I don't have enough hands to facepalm this much.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. I'd forgotten about that. I forgot about Mike Glennon entirely.
Yeah, lots of people did.
But is it stranger than the whole thing with Luka I can't say it. Mavericks player. You guys know what I'm talking about. Luka Doncic. I cannot pronounce that right now.
Nice.
Good grief. Long list of things Mackie can't pronounce.
Yeah, I'm not going to point fingers on pronunciation.
Clearly, the caffeine has not kicked in yet.
Not enough, apparently.
I don't think caffeine will save us in that regard.
All right, well, make sure that you are plenty caffeinated if you're going to be playing more Civilization 7, because we already have DLC. Quite a bit of DLC, actually. The live service model means that there will be no shortage of DLC. So in the month of March, we got multiple new leaders and multiple new civilizations, as well as, various story events and some new natural wonders, including the Bermuda Triangle and Mount Everest. I think I could do without the Bermuda Triangle, but, whatever. So the first new leader that we got is Ada Lovelace.
Mother of computing.
Yes, indeed. So her unique ability is Enchantress of Number, in which cities receive increased science per age when you complete a civic mastery. This resets at the start of each age. Wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Science per age, but resets at the start of each age? Oh, so it doesn't add, I guess, to whatever you had last? I don't know. Weird. Gain culture equal to a percentage of your total science per turn when you complete a technology mastery. So lots of free science and culture for Ada Lovelace. And her agenda is the analytical engine, which increases relationship by a small amount for leaders who have masteries. And it decreases relationships for leaders with few masteries. Thoughts?
I have seen her in Maya has been nerfed, I believe, but I saw earlier this month her and Maya put together, and oh god. Even with ages resetting things, nope, that's not enough to stop that snowball.
Yeah, I saw a video from Herson on Maya, so it's not surprising you mix the two, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, and Maya was already considered one of, if not the strongest in the game, so giving more leaders that give them more science and culture buffs just compounds that. And then we also have our good old Civ 6 friend, Simon Bolivar, is returning. His unique ability is El Libertador. I don't speak Spanish. Sorry if I butchered that horribly. Well, I'm assuming that's what it translates to, but that's not how it's spelled. Gain a free amount of war support on your wars. When you conquer a settlement for the first time, it can purchase a constructible for free. I think that's the first time I've ever heard the word constructible used in Civ parlance, and can purchase items when in the unrest status. I'm used to hearing ploppable in the context of city builders. Never heard constructibles before. His agenda, cornerstone.
Yeah, not in a Civ context.
Yeah, that's a new one. Cornerstone of freedom. Increase relationship by a medium amount for leaders with few unhappy settlements, and decrease relationship for leader with the most unhappy settlements.
Well, it should be reasonably easy to keep him happy if you're managing stuff, I guess.
I like that, being able to purchase the building when you're in unrest. Because there's sometimes if you could just, but then you can't, or you can't get it built, or and the free building when you first conquer as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. That lets you, start putting out like happiness buildings and stuff like that right away. Which again, Civ 7 is still new, so forgive me if I get mechanics completely wrong. But I think having more happiness or less unhappiness decreases the length of time that the city is in unrest. Maybe, or maybe it is just a function of population. I'm not sure. So maybe this helps. Maybe it doesn't.
Well, it should help you stand up cities more quickly after taking them regardless, just by the nature of the bonuses.
Yeah.
So you'd expect if you can conquer reliably that you would snowball a little better in any particular age.
For sure. And, of course, he's obviously looking like a big warmonger Civ here.
Yes.
So, one of Phil's favorite leaders. And war support is actually no joke. War support can tank your happiness like very quickly in Civ 7. And there are multiple ways to deal with it. So in addition to being Simon Bolivar, one way is to just stockpile a bunch of influence and spend that to give yourself extra war support.
Now, what exactly lowers it?
So I don't know all of the factors, but for sure it's a diplomatic thing. So like you have this new diplomatic currency, kind of similar to what we had in Civilization Beyond Earth, where you spend diplomatic points to do different diplomatic actions, like creating an alliance or whatever would cost diplomatic influence. Befriending city-states cost diplomatic influence. Rejecting other players' denouncements, which is a fun new feature, requires influence. And then one of the things now is you can improve your war support during a war by spending diplomatic influence. So there are military applications to this diplomatic currency as well, which is nice because it means that if you're not playing diplomatically, you still have very useful things to spend it on. But basically, each time you pump influence, one leader or the other who's in a war pumps influence into war support, it goes up 1 point in their favor. And if you have positive war support, you don't get war wariness penalties, and if you have negative war support, then you start to get war wariness penalties. I don't know yet if there's benefits to having high positive
because it also affects your combat strength against them.
Okay, well then I guess that would be what the positive would be for.
Yeah, that's pretty significant then. Now, does the actual outcome of combats influence war support?
I haven't noticed when I've watched people playing.
That seems like a questionable interaction if it doesn't.
I want to say yes, but I haven't played enough yet to know for sure. I don't know, maybe a trip to the wiki can answer that question, but I don't even know if the wikis yet have very detailed information on how a lot of these mechanics work.
I have noticed that's a lot of the people I watch's first move when they get war declared on them, or when they declare war, is to, if they get declared on, they at least want to get it back up to neutral, so they're not taking a combat penalty. But if they're initiating the war, sometimes they'll bank some extra influence before that so they can push it to a positive number so that war can go faster.
Okay, similar to previous civs, you do lose war support for units getting killed or injured.
But
there's a question mark next to invading and capturing territory that may cause loss.
Yeah,
That's
so it looks like,
interesting.
based on the wiki I'm looking at, it's based on just the amount of time that you've been at war, losing units in battle, and then possibly... I want to say that what they mean by invading or capturing territory is that it might even change just by having units in enemy territory, whether you're actually taking cities or not. But I could be wrong about that. But then, yes, you can also spend influence to shift it one way or the... Well, I mean, not one way or the other, but to shift it in your favor. And then I think other leaders, other civs, I think can also... spend influence to support one faction or the other, and that also shifts the war support one way or the other. So you can buff up your allies, and then there's other diplomatic agreements that you can do. There's a diplomatic agreement that just gives a positive combat modifier to both you and the other player who you do the agreement with. So yeah, lots of different ways to spend influence to boost your military and warmongering. Who's next? I think those are the only two new leaders, right? Next up, we have a few new civilizations, including one conspicuous absence from the launch of the game, which is Great Britain. Britain's unique ability is the Workshop of the World. Sounds familiar. Buildings are a set percentage cheaper to produce or purchase, and converting towns into cities costs a set percentage more. I don't know what those set percentages are, but I assume they are probably going to change multiple times over the lifetime of the game.
Yeah, but also probably based on game speed as well.
Yeah, which is probably... Both of those reasons, I would imagine, are reasons why whoever wrote this decided not to put a number in there, because it might be outdated very quickly. At least based on what happened to Britain in Civ 6. Like, Britain's abilities changed so many times. I don't even remember what Britain's abilities were. All right, and then, of course, they've got some, like all the other civs, some unique civics. Pax Britannica looks like it gives increased production for each factory resource in settlements. Unlocks a unique building, the manufactory, and the Battersea Power Station. I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. I think that's there in London somewhere. I think it's been converted into like a mall type place at this point. But it was huge and important at the time because it provided power to so much of the city.
Yeah. And then, let's see, we've got increased movement for civilian units. Cities with both a great work and a resource slot receive increased culture and science. We've got chartered companies, which increases the resource capacity of ports and unlocks an East India Company tradition, which increases gold on each building in towns, and then an isolationist civic, which gives increased combat strength unless you're yielding negative gold per turn at the start of the turn. And it also increases the settlement cap. Let's see, no eternal allies, another tradition that gives increased gold in towns. And then they've got quite a bit of unique infrastructure and units. We have a financial center, which is the unique quarter that increases gold for every connected settlement, and that is made up of presumably a royal exchange and a manufactory, which increase gold adjacency for quarters and give a production adjacency for resources, and also a gold adjacency for navigable rivers, respectively. And then we have a unique civilian unit, which is an interesting new thing in Civ 7. There's quite a few civs that have unique civilian units this time, and they are much better than our good old friend, the Indian Fast Worker, if you all remember that. Wonderful unique unit.
That was a top-tier unit in Civ 4.
Yeah, but it was also the butt of many jokes. Anyway,
yeah.
Antiquarian is an explorer unit that receives culture for every tile from your capital when you use the excavate artifact action. Receives culture. Oh, okay. An amount of culture based on the number of tiles in your capital, I'm assuming is what that means. And then a unique military unit called a Revenge, I guess. Unique naval unit has the splash keyword, which deals small amounts of damage to all enemy units adjacent to the target when attacking. That is pretty cool. We have a handful of those sorts of things now, too. I know I played a little bit with the Mississippians in the ancient era that have a burning effect, where they actually light tiles on fire after they shoot at them, and that deals damage to any unit standing in the tile for a few turns. So we've got some cool new types of effects for units. And then, of course, their special wonder, which is not unique to them. My understanding with all these unique wonders is that anyone can build them. It's just certain civilizations unlock them earlier. So this is the Battersea Power Station, which gives an additional naval unit of the same type when training a naval unit. And, of course, it must be built adjacent to water. So that's what was that, the Venetian Arsenal in Civ 6?
Mm-hmm.
Basically have that back. Any other thoughts about Britain?
I mean, the strength will depend on the exact specifics, but it sounds reasonably thematic, and some of that stuff sounds pretty strong, so we'll see.
Yeah, lots of buffs for factories and resources and naval units, pretty much exactly what you would expect.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the adjacencies are what you'd expect as well on that stuff.
And then next up, we have the Antiquity Carthage civilization. Their unique ability is Phoenician Heritage, in which they can only have one city, and towns cannot convert to cities. And whenever you create a merchant or colonist unit, you gain a copy of that unit. So, interesting.
I'm getting some Civ 5 Venice vibes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. You're allowed to have other settlements, but you just can't. You only have the one big city that you can build all the.
Yeah, I mean, it's not identical, obviously, because it's from a different game, but like, you immediately get some similar feeling just from.
And the emphasis there on merchant and colonist units.
Yeah, very, very similar theming here.
Yeah. Because, like, Civ 5 Venice could also get more cities. Yeah, you just wouldn't control them directly, generally.
Yeah, puppets.
Too many
everywhere.
of them.
And this is similar. I mean, the towns are kind of Civ 7's equivalent to puppets.
Although you can direct them a little more, I think.
Yeah, you have more control. But again, it's similar in that you spend gold to purchase things in your towns, which is similar to how the puppets in Civ 5 worked. So, yeah, very similar. So their unique civic tree looks like it is lots and lots and lots of naval stuff. Increased movement for naval units, unlocks the Kothon, unique building, increased range for naval units. Like, holy crap, that can be brutal in the ancient era, especially with being stuck on coasts. Like being able to just completely block enemy units' movement and then pick them off from a longer range. And increasing gold towards purchasing naval units. I assume that just means a discount when gold purchasing naval units.
That's an odd way to frame it.
Yeah, it is. Or like, I mean, do you purchase a naval unit and then get gold back? Like, what does this mean? Anyway, increased sea trade route range, increased gold in the capital for every trade route, increased resource cap in the capital, increased gold towards purchasing buildings on a coast or a navigable river, increased settlement cap, increased gold from mining towns, increased food from fishing or farming towns, and increased movement and sight for the Numidian cavalry unique unit. And as for their unique buildings and units, we have the Punic Port, which is their unique quarter, which increases the resource capacity in the settlement, and it can be built in towns. And it is made up of a Kothon, which provides a production adjacency to coasts and navigable rivers, and a dockyard, which must which provides food adjacency to resources and districts. And then we have a colonist unique unit, which replaces the settler. It has increased embarked movement speed, and it increases the population if it is settled adjacent to a resource. And then the Numidian cavalry unique unit can only be purchased and is more expensive than other cavalry units, and its combat strength for each unique city resource is increased. Its combat strength is increased for each unique city resource that is assigned to the capital. And then they have priority access to the Bursa World Wonder, which allows trade routes from the settlement to be immune to plunder, and all tiles in the city that are adjacent to coasts and eligible for walls receive a wall. So free walls.
I don't think you want to take this one out on land maps, obviously.
Right.
You'll be losing a lot of the good stuff, or otherwise good stuff. I mean, you're still gonna get some coast unless it's like 100% land map, but you like naval movement is basically junk if you have a short coastline and nothing really to attack with it, and it's incredible on like archipelago style maps. Mm-hmm. So how useful this civ, similar to many other naval civs, will depend greatly on the map itself.
Yeah, does Civilization 7 even like have a Pangea or all land map? Like, given how like the exploration age mechanics work, like, because that would seem like it would completely eliminate.
It would be odd. Yeah, I don't know that they have 100% land stuff, but like even if you just have like limited coast, like it's not useless. You can still settle some coastal cities and get some benefit from the ship movement, but you really lose a lot of it if it's like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there are any map types in Civ 7 that don't have 2 continents and some islands in between, because that's kind of fundamental to the way the entire exploration age works. But maybe there are. Maybe I just didn't pay that much attention.
Yeah, I don't know. But that also like implies that it would be awkward to add that stuff then later if the game's assuming that you have these multiple continents.
Right. I mean, unless of course they change the way that the exploration age objectives work, which would not be.
I mean, that'd have to be a pretty big change.
Sure, but I mean,
you're right though. You could do it.
I mean, I would imagine that would be something that would come in like a full expansion pack. Like, I doubt that's something that would come in like just an update or a patch. So expansion packs in the past have like completely changed, mechanics.
That's true. Sometimes so that would very greatly.
Yeah, that would definitely not be unprecedented. But yeah, it would be definitely awkward to have those sorts of maps and not make some kind of change to the way that I mean, I guess you could hypothetically like just consider distant resources even across, land to be treasure resources, and then it works pretty much the same. I mean, maybe you just add like some kind of land caravan unit that works the same way that a treasure fleet does.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the concept of continents already from previous games.
Right.
Sharing a landmass. So you could certainly do that.
Or alternatively, you just have like a Pangea map, but it also has islands around Pangea. So that would be another way to do it.
That's true too. Civ 4 had a map generation that was kind of like that, with big and small, and I think some of the others where you're guaranteed like one large contiguous continent, but then you also had island chains guaranteed in there. So they could do something like that too.
Right. All right, well, next up we have another new civilization, Nepal, which is a modern age civilization. Their ability is the Roof of the World. All warehouse buildings apply to mountain tiles, but they cost increased gold and happiness maintenance. And please do not ask me to explain what warehouse or how warehousing works, because I still don't quite understand that. Let's see. Their civics, again, a bunch of stuff that buffs mountains. Food and science buildings receive adjacency for mountains. Their unique scout can activate on an unowned mountain tile. And then a path of tiles is claimed back to the settlement, and the mountain tile is improved immediately. Okay, interesting. With a power station. Fun. Districts adjacent to mountain tiles receive defensive fortifications. Units complete fortifications in one turn if adjacent to a mountain. Increased combat strength for all units adjacent to a mountain. These guys are going to be really good if they ever add tunnels back into the game. They've got their priority access to a wonder, of course. Increased influence on culture buildings. Increased influence towards initiating endeavors if you have the fewest settlements. So that's kind of neat. Kind of like maybe a little catch-up mechanic, perhaps.
Yeah, back there on one of them, it had they can gift a Gurkha unit to friendly leaders.
Yeah.
But increased relationship and additional culture with that, that's interesting.
And then museums can get an additional Great Works slot, and mountain tiles in your capital can receive increased culture. And then mountain tiles in other settlements get a small increase in culture. So big emphasis.
So it's like a military culture hybrid setup, but more so culture, question mark?
Yes.
Yeah, it says diplomacy culture at the top, but this does have a lot of military in it.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's really going to come down to how the map generators do mountains. And I have to say that in Civ 7, I'm not seeing like the massive mountain ranges that we saw in Civ 6.
Yeah.
So this might not be, if you're imagining Civ 6 maps in your head, this probably isn't going to be as powerful as you might be thinking it is, because mountains aren't as common here as they were. Anyway, their unique infrastructure, they've got a Highland power station, which increases production and culture, and must be built on a mountain tile by a Sherpa unit. And the Sherpa unit, of course, is their unique scout replacement. Movement and sight actions ignore mountain tile penalties. Are mountain tiles passable in Civ 7? I don't know if I even tried. I didn't think so. So do these units also have the ability to move onto mountains? They must be, if they can put...
It's implied if it ignores penalties, because inability to move into it would be a penalty, and so would any movement penalty. Well, so if it ignores the penalty...
I'm trying to think now if other units by default are even allowed to move onto mountains in Civ 7. I think I just assumed that they couldn't, and I might not have ever tried it. And then they have a Gurkha unique infantry unit, which has an increased combat strength and movement, but it costs more to train and produce. And then, of course, they have their priority wonder, Budhanath. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. Increases your relationship with all other leaders and must be built on a tropical tile adjacent to a mountain tile. So again, very map dependent. Not only do you have to be on mountains, but you got to be at a specific latitude now so that you can actually use this sort of stuff. And then you were saying, Mackie, that there was an ability that let you give a unit as a gift? Where was that? I missed it.
It was in their civic tree. That the tier 1, when it unlocks that wonder, it also unlocks the gift action to be able to gift that to another leader.
Oh, yes. I skipped right over that. Yeah. So that's
just
neat.
Yeah, if you had somebody you were friendly with and you knew they were getting hit hard by another AI you weren't friendly with, you could gift them some units. Once I can actually help.
It would also be useful in a joint war. You send them some units and then also probably do the diplomatic action that increases the combat strength of both your units, and then just pound the heck out of whoever you're fighting. Maybe you can team up with Simon Bolivar and he can lower your war support costs too.
Hell, there you go.
Actually, that's another interesting... How does that work in joint wars? Like, do both leaders that are jointly fighting someone share the same war support? Do they each have their own? So many new things to learn. Any other comments on Nepal?
The wiki article does not give you useful information about mountains when it comes to movement.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if there's a lot of other players who, like me, just didn't even think to try.
It's been like that for so long.
So the final new civilization that we got in March is Bulgaria, an exploration age civilization. Their unique ability is Krum's Dynasty, or Kroom's Dynasty, I'm not sure. Receive food in all towns when pillaging improvements equal to a percentage of the HP or yields gained. All combat units receive decreased combat strength against fortified districts. So we got a Civ that looks like they have a penalty in their unique ability. I think this is the only Civ that I've seen that has an explicit penalty in their unique ability so far in Civ 7.
Well, it's a trade-off because you're getting more yields from pillaging. So, like, the design is to pillage rather than capture.
Right, yeah. All right, they have a militaristic and expansionist flavor, and their unique civics look like they are focused around fortresses and fortifications. So unlock a hidden fortress unique improvement. I don't know how you hide a fortress, but maybe that'll be explained in a moment. Unlocks the false retreat tradition, which allows when pillaging buildings, all cities receive production equal to a percentage of yield gain. All combat units received decreased. Wait, hold on. Isn't that their ability? So, like, you can get a tradition that gives you your ability again?
Well, the other one was for food, right?
Yeah, and this one's for production.
Oh, okay. This one, right. All right. Food and then production. Okay. But then it looks like it also, again, decreases your combat strength against fortified districts.
Yeah, they really want you to go in here and be a raiders.
Yeah, for sure. Combat units.
Oh, well, there's your counterbalance. Combat units receive increased combat strength, and you have a set number of relics slotted. So if you have a bunch of relics, then you can start running everything over and pillage.
Yeah.
Yeah. You probably pillage for yields first, then capture.
Yep.
But now you're not going to get hit with, oh no, the combat penalty.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't say how bad the penalty is. Sometimes you can just like eat the penalty and take stuff anyway.
No, I mean they're very much avoiding putting numbers in these pages,
Yeah.
and I think we all understand why. Let's see what else they got. Increased happiness on the hidden fortress. Gain a free relic. You can do a civic to just give you a free relic. So there you go. Great works provide increased happiness and gold. Receive a set number of migrant units in the capital. Wow, that's interesting. Just a civic that'll give you migrant units, which for the record are basically units that let you move population around. I don't know what exactly spawns them. I think they come from like cities that are under siege or that are unhappy or something like that, but I've gotten a few of them and I never have any clue where the heck they came from. But you just send them to a city and, they increase the population of that city. So Bulgaria can just get some from civics. And then let's see. Increases HP and yields from pillaging. That's another tradition. So yeah, lots of pillage bonuses. Their unique infrastructure is that hidden fortress, which I'm curious to see how that works. It counts as a fortification and has a production base. Units on this tile gain increased combat strength and the stealth keyword, which makes a unit invisible to enemy units until they attack an enemy unit. And then or they end the turn adjacent to an enemy unit, or an enemy unit attempts to move to the same location. Got it. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, if they try to move into you, it has to result in combat, right? Yes, apparently so.
Right, but the thing is, they don't see, so it says that presumably the unit with the stealth ability would have to end its movement adjacent to an enemy. So presumably that means that if an enemy unit moves adjacent to your stealth unit, they don't see it until they try to move into that tile, in which case a combat is forced.
Yeah, or like you spend a turn next to each other. Like they move adjacent to you, and then you both sit there. I think that would also reveal you,
Perhaps.
based on how that's worded.
Maybe, yeah.
Like if you like, as long as nobody takes an action that turn, so you just end turn next to each other.
Yeah.
But still, that can be pretty beneficial.
Do we have what precedents do we have for invisible units in Civ? I feel like there's been some before. I know we've had units that don't show their nationality. I don't recall too many units that have been invisible.
Yes, spies and submarines historically in other civs have been invisible by default.
So here
Except
you go.
to like other subs or other spies, basically.
Right. So here,
well, you could also have like units that revealed subs, but by default, if you didn't have something that could reveal subs, then subs are invisible.
So here you go. This unit or this improvement gives you land submarines. All right.
I mean, it's not quite the same because they can't attack you and still not be hidden and still be hidden.
That's true. In certain versions of Civilization, the submarines had a ranged attack. So,
yeah, or they could attack you and you couldn't attack them back without a destroyer or something to reveal them.
My recollection is that usually when submarines have been invisible, any adjacent unit would reveal them, and it was just the destroyers would reveal them in their entire sight range. But I could be mistaken, or there could have been ones that didn't work like that.
Maybe they did reveal themselves after they attacked, but it was hard to punish that, and then they would like immediately go invisible again.
Well, for sure, you would at least see the tile from which it's attacking, and in most cases, attacking with a ranged attack ends the unit's turn, the unit's movement. But presumably, if you had like a promotion or an ability that let you move after attacking, your submarine could hypothetically fire its torpedoes and then run away off into the fog of war, never to be seen again.
Yeah, that'd be pretty tough to deal with it unless you could reveal it then.
Right. And then plane units often will reveal submarines as well, I think.
Yes. And rightfully so, because like realistically, subs don't stay submerged.
Well, and that's how
all the time.
In World War I and World War II, that's how submarines were spotted, right? They typically weren't spotted by other naval units until there was a line of torpedoes coming straight for them. Usually, they would send out planes, or I think in later decades, helicopters to look for the spyglass, the scope, sticking out of the water, or the conning tower, and then radio that back to the nearest destroyer.
Well, plus they weren't always submerged, so they could just be spotted visibly.
Right. Yeah, they can only
usually not by other ships though, because normally they would submerge if they detected other ships. They also got picked up on radar unless they were submerged.
Right. Yeah, and usually submarines would have an anti-air gun on their deck, like specifically to try to shoot down any planes that might see them while they're taking their air break.
They were pretty bad at it though.
Yeah, they weren't great. All right.
Not a lot of planes put down by subs.
No, yeah, and some of those planes would even have like torpedoes and stuff like mounted to their bottom, and they would just drop the torpedoes and try to take out the subs right then and there.
Yeah, by World War II, that was one of the more common ways to sink ships.
Yep.
At least in major engagements.
And then Bulgaria's unique unit is a Tarkon. Units in its command rate. Oh, so this is a unique commander. So not a military unit, but a commander. Units in its combat radius can pillage for no movement cost.
That's pretty powerful, considering their bonuses.
Military unit, it makes sense.
And the commander itself, also has more movement, which means you pack an army up into this unit, you move it into enemy territory, and if you have the promotion that lets you unpack units without spending their movement, then all those units scatter and just start pillaging, and can pillage, one or two tiles each on their turn. Like, I mean, that's like wiping out an entire city's production, like right there in one turn. Like that's...
Yeah, these guys are going to be real fun to deal with surprise attacks. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, these guys are going to be no joke in surprise attacks. Then what else we got? Then we have an actual unique military unit, the Bolyar. which is a cavalry unit that ignores rough terrain penalties and has increased combat strength on rough terrain. And then they have their fancy wonder, the Ryla Monastery, which has multiple relic slots and receive a relic each time you build a wonder, including that one. So that buffs all their military units, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pack all of the Boyar into that commander and roll up in there with all of themselves movement points. And even if the terrain is terrible, they can still go spread out and pillage half of a city in like one turn. So
Yeah.
you're absolutely. I do not want them as neighbors if we're going to go to war, but it would be very fun to play them as well.
I think you would like pre-station units to block that, basically.
For sure. And then, of course, they're also a very defensive civilization as well, with that hidden fortress ability that lets you hide, your units and ambush the enemy, on defense. So, like, hypothetically, right, like you're a neighbor to Bulgaria and you probably don't see a whole lot of their units. You might think, oh, they're prime for, they're vulnerable. But then your units start moving in and hit brick walls of invisible enemy units, and not as easy as you thought.
Oh, it's just an empty fortress. I'll waltz right in. Oops.
I wonder how. I really do wonder how well the AI is going to handle that. Like,
I was wondering that too.
Is the AI like going to base their war decisions based on how many Bulgarian units they can see, or like I forget now if there's a little UI indicator that tells you like the relative military strength of all the different civs. Like I know they show like yields, like happiness and production and science and culture and all that stuff. I forget if they show military power the way that the little leader banners did in Civ 6.
Well, even if we can't see it, the AI might be able to.
Yeah, it could be the other way around too, where players can't see it, but the AI just knows.
I think the AIs always are, maybe almost always, cheated in that regard in Civ games.
They might
Unless
at
I'm
least
forgetting.
have an idea of what your military power number is, even if they can't see the unit.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the Civ games just gave that information out regardless. So, like, the AI wasn't cheating because you could also see it. But I think the AI generally knows your strength in Civ games.
Yep. Well, that covers all of the new stuff in March, and then the roadmap for DLC release schedule says that we can expect between April and September 2 more new leaders, 4 new civs, 4 new wonders, and a bunch of other events and challenges and updates in the coming months. I don't know who any of those are yet. I don't think they've been announced, so we'll find out in the coming months.
Speaking of updates, question mark? Yeah. Speaking of updates, we also have an upcoming patch to go with this. Or no, it's out now. So I'll take us through some of the highlights here on the patch notes and comment on some things. First of all, you can expect some performance, stability performance increases. They're trying to make the game run a little better on like PlayStation and whatnot. Trying to prevent crashes and such. Let's see. Oh yeah, Civ's not unlocking correctly on each transition, so they're making changes like that. They've introduced city naming and such. Let's see. There's a lot of UI changes this patch. It is nowhere near good enough yet, but it's encouraging to see them actually address this.
And addressing
so quick move
very early as well. I mean, the game's only been out for like a month and a half, and
well, I wouldn't call that early. I would say that your UI should probably start taking shape fairly early in development. In terms of some of the information you're presenting to people and whatnot.
Well,
like obviously it's not going to be perfect back then, but like,
and I'm talking
that should generally be on your radar during design for a reason.
I'm talking relative to in the past where we had to wait for an expansion pack in Civ 6 to get things like production queues in cities.
Yeah, although we had quick move sooner, and we do have quick move now in Civ 7.
Yay.
So that's being added. There's a restart button. Oft requested, no doubt. so you can just like regenerate the map with the exact same settings you had. Does anyone know if that works in multiplayer?
I have no clue.
I mean, I
think
guess it would
here's
have
the
to be like
objectives.
it would have to be limited to hosts, but considering how often people ask for restart in those weekly Civ games we do,
Oh yeah, I just
it,
because
it wouldn't
somebody,
hurt to have that.
without having to go all the way out and start a new game and come back in like that. Yeah, that would be cool if it worked that way. But I
Does
have a
the
feeling it only is really.
does the multiplayer lobby like save all the settings and stuff like that when you exit back out?
I don't know
Well,
in Civ
in
7. It did in 6.
yeah, because and you could also set up a configuration and save it, so you could quick load that. So you didn't have to toggle everything once again.
Okay, you can also rename commanders in addition to cities. So there you go. Improve unit flag and health bar visibility, so you can see what's going on with your units a little better. It's still not. It's fine. The unit health is okay. It's still a little small, but it's there. Plot tooltips, district under attack notification. I guess you'll want to get used to seeing what that button looks like, so you know when stuff's being attacked by enemy units.
I would imagine there's
Trade lens.
an audio notification as well.
Yeah, but you can have more than one thing threatened at the same time, so it's probably you're gonna want to get in the habit of looking over there to confirm with the audio what's being attacked.
Right. I mean,
Those of us who've played Hearts of Iron and you hear the naval invasion warning indicator.
well, beforehand, they actually had a little dialogue box that would pop up telling you that a city was vulnerable or that a city was under threat, and there'd be a button to go there, and you'd click it. So, I wonder if did they get rid of that and replace it with a notification, or do they still have that as well? That one
Ideally, they would use both.
That
but who
one was
knows?
a little annoying though, because it would there was one for a city being quote vulnerable, which would mean that like you didn't have any units there. So sometimes I would get that notification like spawning for like my backline cities that actually weren't under any threat, but I didn't have any units there to defend them because all my units were on the front line, and it would still give me those notifications from time to time.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
And
There should be some like proximity indicator.
Well,
for that.
I mean, maybe there is. So it always made me wonder, like, oh, is there a unit? Are there units sneaking back there? Like, should I start sending my, an army or something back there to defend that city? And then I wouldn't see any units attack it. So, like, I don't know. Did they wander somewhere else? Who knows? Right? Like, maybe, and it could be something as simple as, like, the other Civ, like, maybe had a scout that, like, walked by, a couple tiles out in the fog of war that I didn't see. Like, it could be that.
Oh yeah, they're like griefing you, just moving in and out of fog on their turn, and you can't see them. Got a trade lens, maybe that'll provide a little more information about how it works, so that people don't have to suss it out or look it up on third-party sources.
Yeah, the fact when I was watching the video, you can see where you can send stuff, and you can automatically send the merchant there instead of you basically having to walk up to each city and going, okay, what can I trade here? What can I trade here?
Yeah.
So definitely better.
Yeah, this was
Age progress
that whole
bar.
mechanic was confusing as hell when the game first came out. Like I was like, how the heck do I use these merchant units?
Yeah.
So we got turns remaining until crises for age progress. It's useful.
Yeah, unfortunately though, it still doesn't quite solve the like major underlying problem, which is that age progress happens in like fits and spurts. So it's still really hard to predict like how close you are to ending the age.
Yeah, this says 85%, but the AIs could all fire off something on the next turn rollover, and then suddenly it's 100.
Right. I mean, it's nice to have a better idea of how close you are to like the crisis and the next stage of the crisis, but still, like that still doesn't tell you if it's 10 turns away or 2 turns away,
Well, that's different from what it's saying here, where it's saying you have a turns until crises rather than a percentage.
Oh, and then maybe they did change that. I mean, in the way that it worked when the game launched, I thought it was based on like cumulative progress from like all the different civs, and I don't know if there's a way to count that with like a specific.
Yeah, the picture still shows a percentage, but the text here says turns.
Right.
So I don't know what's up with that.
I've played Civ 7 very briefly since this patch was released, and I saw the little red circles there and the percentage, but I didn't play to a point where I got to a crisis, so maybe that changes when you do start the crisis, and maybe it does show like a turn countdown in there as well. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean the only way I can picture that working is when you get to 100%, then it gives you the countdown.
And that's
because that would be granular then.
And that's the way that I think it should work. Is there should be like a 10 or 20 turn countdown or something like that after, so you can finish up whatever you were doing. If you were building a wonder or like befriending a city state, like give you enough time to do that sort of thing. Especially since you lose the opportunity to do those when the age transitions, right? Like I mean, the city states don't flat out disappear now the way that they used to, but older wonders aren't available to build when you transition to a new age. So if there's something that was going to be very critical for like your strategy in the future eras, future ages, and you didn't get that built before age progress hit 100, like you were just hosed. And if you were one turn away, 1 or 2 turns away, like that just would suck.
Yeah. So UI is seeing some improvements, but there's a long way to go still too. Also, some new features in this patch. Probably the biggest, that from what I'm reading, and the first thing they're listing here is the modern age pacing. And they are making the modern age way slower deliberately, like more than doubling factory cost, port cost, slightly less than doubling rail station cost. Yeah. Yeah, like reducing the coal resource production bonus by apparently a factor of 10.
Yeah, that's quite.
And techs are costing more too. Techs are costing more as well. They're saying roughly 25% more. So yeah, they want the modern age to last a little longer. You also don't get age progress by killing other civs. So I guess that makes it easier to actually kill all the other civs without ending the age.
Or accidentally maybe tripping on some other victory condition.
Yeah.
Because that was a common thing in Civ 6 too, is you'd be going for the military victory, but then you'd like accidentally trip over the culture victory because you killed all the culturally powerful civs first, and then the little stragglers that were left behind weren't generating any culture or tourism, so you just beat them by default.
Yeah, you could also trip religion that way if you founded one.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, with this, I think it would really suck to like you conquer players that ends the age faster and it causes someone else to win as a consequence. So it's probably better that it doesn't, because that gives you a chance to actually impede people winning militarily as well. And then there's a bunch of changes to leaders and civs.
Actually, speaking of that, we actually have a comment that's related to that from the previous episode. Let me bring it up real quick. So, on the last episode, we got a comment from a space ostrich saying the big problem with the military victory is, from what I can tell, it's objectively easier to just go science instead, because you need rocketry for nukes, and then the Manhattan Project and Operation Ivy both take similar turn counts to the space race objectives, which become available much earlier. So there is zero circumstance, according to a space ostrich, where you can get a military victory where you wouldn't have already won a science victory if you were trying to get it. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, I still think that actually eliminating everyone else should be a military victory. Like, just period. If you actually do that, then you shouldn't need to build anything aside from the units you used.
Right, but which you already built. Like, you don't build those after everyone's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, like, if the game does not end when you are the only civ on the map, that is nonsense. Now, it might be more practical to win the other way, but...
Yeah, because if it's that much earlier in the tech tree, you're going to be able to focus on that sooner than you do your military stuff. But yeah, it's weird that you have to do those two for the military victory and not just punch heads.
Well, and later on,
Yeah.
we're going to be talking about exploits that might even make it possible to eliminate all the other civilizations before even getting to the modern age. But we'll talk about that when we get to it.
So I don't know if we want to go through all the leader and like Civ tweak changes, and you get like Ashoka gets plus a nerf to the fortified districts, or plus 10 against fortified districts down to plus 5. Confucius correctly unlocks.
It did describe on the Mount Everest, which I thought was, it's got the +2 happiness, +2 influence, and +2 culture, but it reveals all the other mountain tiles on the continent when you find it. I was like, oh,
Wait,
that's cool.
Qing is modern age? It's an interesting choice.
Yeah, I mean, modern in massive air quote, you know.
I mean, that's not what I would associate with modern.
Yeah, it's technically correct kind of a thing, probably.
I feel like we're at least a century off.
Well, remember though that the modern age in Civ 7 is more like the industrial age. It basically covers the Industrial Revolution up through the end of World War II, and then it stops.
Yeah.
So it's not.
I feel like that's still a little awkward for them.
It's modern in like the literary sense of the word modern, as opposed to like postmodern.
Because like to my recollection, their height was before their industrialization.
I mean, maybe it's a typo. Maybe they were in exploration and they just put the wrong. Where are you seeing that?
I mean, that would make sense. I mean, if you go exploration age, then you have a number of choices for China's dynasty. Yeah, I mean, I guess. Yeah, I guess they would be the. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, I guess they are technically the best fit for that time frame. It's not great, but whatever. It's fine. It makes me raise an eyebrow as an EU4 player.
Well, it's one of those things where where the game shows its Western history bias, where the ages and the objectives for getting through a lot of them do have a very strong Western history slant to them, and trying to lump East Asian and other civilizations like into those very rigid categories, you get problems like that where like the.
I think this is just more of a like you picked a period cutoff, and it's just not an ideal period cutoff for China specifically, because
right, because it's inspired by the Western history, right? The shift.
No, like it's not because of that. It's just that they happened to have a downturn in what the game is constituting a modern age. I mean, they were somewhat forced into that with the opiate nonsense too, but like it would be less awkward in like if the age just covered 100, like a century earlier, for example, because then they'd be at their height rather than in the opiate crisis, and it wouldn't be as odd. Yeah, whatever. Moving on. I think it's fine.
It's odd, but it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, like I can't think of a better choice really, unless you want to like represent the warlord, like what, like the. Yeah, no. I don't think you want to get into like nationalist China instead. Like I think that's probably their best bet. Lafayette, one combat strength per tradition slotted, no longer doubled in distant lands, and change +2 culture and happiness per age in settlements, doubled in distant lands to +1. Yeah, so mostly nerfs, except for Confucius, where it actually works properly. Civs, Buganda, Nyanza Civic now applies to full hex buildings like the aerodrome. Carthage, oh, it's a DLC. Numidian now only gains +1 per unique city resource slotted in the capital. A lot of stuff with Hawaii here.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to go through every single one of these. We might be here all day.
Yeah, this is gonna.
Yeah.
And there's still a list of gameplay and UI bullet points below this too. So
Okay, yeah. So basically, Civ are getting some balance tweaks, and if you want
Yeah.
to see that, you should
Which is to
look
be
through the patch notes.
which is to be expected a month after.
Yeah, I mean that's going to happen for
Yeah.
years.
Especially Maya, which is now that quarter gained 15%. Now it only gains 5% for the technology. So it
Yeah,
still
big nerf
is
for Maya.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah, 1/3 of their original power. So
bonus. Yeah.
Well, the Kuna
Oops, no,
also
we
got
should.
reduced, so it's even more than that.
Yeah. Tweak the science of the one building, tweak that percentage you got for production gained because that was ridiculous.
I'll believe this when I see it. AI, improved AI scouting and settlement behavior. Probably. I mean, you can always improve that. They probably did to a degree. But I'm always amused when I see AI improvements in patch notes. It doesn't matter if it's Civ or Paradox Games or really any game. Like when I see improved AI, I'm like, good. It's good that they're working on it, but I'd be surprised if it's actually that noticeable. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be. AI commanders now quickly gain bonus XP on difficulty, up to 100% on deity. Better commander promotion choices. Okay, we'll see.
I mean, there are some
A lot of
that
economy
I think are
changes.
just crazy good. Like the first one I take with every single commander is the first one in the assault tree, which allows units to move after being unstacked from the commander. Like to me, that's like a no-brainer for every commander.
Yeah, I think that you should try to, from a design perspective, get away from no-brainer picks. It's like, why offer a choice then?
Yeah, I
If
mean,
if players are gonna like literally pick something almost 100% of the time.
Yeah, again, the game's very new. I don't pretend to understand it very well. So if someone has an argument for another promotion for commanders as your first promotion, by all means, I'm all ears. But like for me, I'm looking through them and I'm like, yeah, no, I want my units to be able to attack immediately after unpacking. Thank you very much.
Okay, trade outpost focus in grants +5 range. So it makes it easier to connect towns to cities.
Well, this one's crazy because it looks like it gives an increase in range to all of your settlements. So does this stack?
Yeah, all the other settlements.
Ooh.
Like if I have 3 trade outpost focus settlements, like
Yeah, is that +15?
do I have +15?
I don't know. It is not clear in the notes here. Sawmills now properly get production to camps, so I guess they were not. Grocers no longer grant food bonuses. Let's see. Ironworks, yeah, okay, so that Ironworks is also fixed. You can't buy repairs without having enough gold any longer.
Whoops.
Yeah. Players now correctly receive discounted prices when purchasing buildings that have been discounted. A lot of this stuff is like not really economy so much as bug fixing. Purchases can no longer be made in town with unrest, unless the game explicitly allows that per our earlier discussion. Result in issue with fish resource, decreasing the amount of food needed for settlements next growth to negative. Yeah, this isn't like, oh my gosh, this is like straight up just fixing stuff that's not working properly here. Production queue properly updates when multiple wonders in the queue and another completes it first. Falls granted by a burst of wonder now properly granted on all eligible tiles. Okay. The sabotage space program espionage action now allegedly works. Revolution's crisis now applies correct amount of unhappiness after players choose a new government. Scorched Earth changed from nerf to +3. I don't know how to pronounce this. But the Pura Betera units now gain +5 from fortified districts. Scouts no longer stack +1 site after unpacking. Let's see. I'm just looking for anything else that's like interesting here. Added and updated several entries in the Civilipedia. Very, very thorough. I'm sure that the Civilipedia will be equally thorough. Trust issues. So apparently if you quit to the main menu too quickly when creating a new game, you'd get issues too. Some of the stuff we've already mentioned, like District Under Attack. Reported texts. Do you guys have anything else here that really stands out to you? I don't want to read through everything on the list here. I don't think that's great for our listeners.
Yeah, there's a lot of little mini things where they fixed bits of the UI, like the tech, because then it was like text out of line and things like that, and they're multiple issues that people had reported, like, hey, we got this. It just takes more than 2 seconds to apply a patch because they have to go through multiple things.
One thing that I will point out is under miscellaneous, they say that the continue button on the main menu now loads manual saves that are more recent than the last autosave. So apparently before, the continue button only checked the autosaves folder. So that's a nice
that's good
fix.
that it's good that they switched that. It should be whatever the most recent thing you saved, for sure.
The autosave. And
if that's an autosave, then load that. But yeah, if it's not an autosave, then load the most recent.
Yeah, and under narrative, there were some events that were not firing off, so they've got those firing off now, and some of the other ones have been tweaked because they weren't finishing properly. So, it's a good set of improvements. I mean, this is definitely forward progress. There was a concerning amount of negativity in the YouTube comments when I went and looked at the actual update video. And I did want to bring that point up that a lot of people are saying, just take out ages. It's like, no, this is the concept they've built this version of Civ around. They're not necessarily going to do that. They're going to add more ages, I'm sure. But
I don't think you can take ages out at this stage.
No.
I do think that this is just a start of a very long need of improvement for the UI.
Honestly,
but that was by far my biggest complaint when I was looking at it on release.
Well, and honestly, I don't think it's the ages themselves that are the problem. For me, the problem is the way that you transition between ages. If that were a little bit more seamless, I think it would alleviate most, if not all, of people's problems with the way that it works.
Yeah, I mean, some people are just also not going to like any degree of rubber banding, even though you do get a substantial advantage if you did well in the previous age, and you can definitely parlay that into victory. But there is rubber banding, and some people don't like that. They just want if you're winning by enough to just win, rather than have a rubber banding element.
Yeah,
and that's going to come down to personal preference. So I get where people are coming from that. Just it's the same thing as hating the blue shell in Mario Kart. There's it's very easy to understand why people hate the blue shell.
But it does have a purpose in the balance of the game.
Yeah, it has a purpose, and it's just whether you'd prefer to play with that purpose in the game or not. But that's a your mileage may vary thing.
But also, I mean, for Firaxis, right, you have to pick which criticisms of the past games you're going to try to address. So, one of the other criticisms of past Civilization games is that so many games are over by, the end of the medieval era or the Renaissance, right? And the industrial and modern ages aren't even worth playing because, one or two players are already so far ahead of everyone else that there's no way, that one player or one of those, two players aren't going to be the ones who win, right? So
I'm not sure that's not still the case. I mean, I guess we'll find out with time.
Well, yeah, I mean, the point that I'm making is they tried to address that, right? Now, whether or not they were successful at addressing that, that's also its own story, right? One of your criticisms of the age transitions could be that, if this is the problem you're trying to solve, you didn't solve it. Right, so it could also be.
I don't know that ages are the vehicle to solve it. Ages are interesting for their own right. They add some variability to the game. Well, and they give you some intermediate goals that are impactful, regardless of whether you're going to rubber band or not, or regardless of whether you're trying to make the late game interesting or more interesting. Ages as a conceptual mechanic can bring things to the table on their own merits.
Well,
independent from that goal.
I haven't heard or read any of the actual developers or anyone from Firaxis say this, but I saw this in a lot of previews and the early batch of reviews that came out just before or right after Civ 7 released, which is that one of the major impetuses of the age system might have been to facilitate multiplayer play, because the fact that they broke the game up basically into 3 mini games where each one has its own little standalone victory condition means that you can play multiplayer games of Civ 7 in just one age and have a complete experience, right, with a beginning, middle, end, and a victory, right?
Well, will people actually embrace that though? I doubt it. I doubt they'll just do one age and then have a they at best maybe like you'll get something like a Civ Players League score, like adding scoring. Like if someone wins an age, that's just worth something towards their ELO regardless of who ultimately wins.
Right, but also
so,
if you have a group that you play with where, right, like you always start in the ancient era and you never get to play in the industrial or modern ages, and you want to play some multiplayer in those later ages, well, in Civ 7 you can just start a game in the modern age, and the game is built specifically to handle that. I mean, that doesn't negate the fact that in past games we always had advanced start features, so like that was something you could always do, but the difference is that now the game is specifically built to do that and provide, more of a complete experience if you choose to do that.
And we'll see though if players actually play that, because even in the past, like when you picked a future, like a later era start in Civ, like it changed mechanics considerably. Like it changed like what was in the cities on founding them. It changed costs of units. Like a lot of the game was substantially altered as a consequence of starting in the later era. But players always just started ancient. Well, not literally always, but almost always.
And the other
started ancient anyway.
And the other big benefit of the ages as well is Civ design, right? Is you can design Civs for specific ages, right? And not have to worry about them also being balanced in other ages.
Yeah, because you see that with a lot of the Civ 6 ones, they hit their peak much later in the game. So you almost never want to play them because you know that you're going to be functionally done with the game before you ever hit that point.
Yeah, I think ages are a positive for that reason as well. I just don't think that they're necessarily going to address somebody running away. We'll see, but
yeah,
I don't like Mega Bears fan pointed out. Like it's not that might not have been the design intent just because some people thought it was. Like because they offer a lot from a design perspective and a mechanical perspective, so they don't have to be trying to address that. They could just be trying to do something interesting. And for all my criticisms of Civ 7, like the vast majority of that is just on the UI side of things. I don't think the conceptual design of ages is necessarily bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of, despite all of our nitpicking we do here on the podcast, there's a lot of things I see and I like about Civ 7. And I really appreciate that Firaxis is trying something instead of just sticking to that formula that they know would sell. They're trying something different.
Yeah, because and as I made a point of emphasizing in the last episode, like a lot of my comments right now might sound very negative, but a lot of that comes from a place of it's intended as constructive criticism. I want the game to be better, right? Because it does have a lot of faults. Yes. And the earlier we point out the things that need improvement, the sooner those things will be improved. Where as opposed to just showering, the game with praise right from the start, right? And then, the developers think nothing needs to change, right? Like, no, let's get working, fixing the things that need to be fixed so that we have the best version of Civ 7 possible as soon as possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because they want to add more things into it, and you got to make sure the base is stable before you start adding like another agent and more complications with leaders, and people listening could not hear what we're hearing.
Yeah, I got a toddler here on my lap who wants to play podcast.
Chiming in on the ages, yeah.
A special guest, the toddler.
Yeah, there you go.
Civ podcaster in training. I should get him a t-shirt that says that.
Can he beat Viceroy yet?
No, he's got a long ways to go before he's beating any difficulty level.
Maybe not that long, a couple of years.
Yeah, he still struggles with back in here and ask. So
At least you're
I
getting
mean, I guess
excited
Civ would
about
be
it.
harder for like a 5 or 6-year-old than a platformer would be. But kids by that age can already start getting pretty good.
Oh yeah, I mean he already knows how to use my mom's iPhone better than she does.
Oh man.
Yeah, I learned how to beat Mario Brothers before I could read well. In terms of gaming. It's a distant memory now.
All right, so we are at an hour and 15 minutes. Mackie, do you think we have time to do the last topic?
I was going to say just yeah, because I'll just give you the short form, which is for something slightly of a lighter bit of a thing. As usual, Spiffing Brit is exploiting the heck out of things. Now, some of this may have gotten patched because this video came out after or right around when we recorded last time. But
I don't remember seeing any fixes for these in the patch notes though, so they might still be in the game.
They might. I want to say the one with the scout that we briefly mentioned that last time is where you deploy the scout out of a commander and then do the lookout thing, then pull him back in and redeploy it, and you cycle this over turns until you can see the whole map. Even stuff you're not supposed to see yet, like distant lands bits. He was able to get that to go that high. But the other thing he had found was in this video is when you're taking this one, I gotta find which policy this was.
Well, he was using a specific civilization combination.
Yeah,
but it looks like these sorts of policies or traditions are available to other civs too. So it might be possible to do this with multiple civs and leaders.
Yes, he was doing it with Ashoka, and I believe it's as Mexico when he started doing this. Do all the attributes. Where is the? I'm trying to find that specific where's this? I'm trying to fast forward through the video to find that screenshot of the tech tree or civ tree. Demagogy. Gain happiness on the palace equal to your cultural attribute. Well, he had another couple of things plugged in that also gave plus production and plus science.
And culture.
When you're happy. And culture, yes. All of those. And then weirdly, you can add this policy in and hit confirm, and then come back in and take it out and hit confirm again. And you can keep repeating this, and it keeps stacking and stacking and stacking. It's not properly removing it when you take it out.
And you do that in the same turn too. You don't even have
in
to
the same
turn.
Yeah, you don't have to wait turns. As you put it, you can sit here and do a lot of clicking. He did it something like 23 times, and he'd gotten his. I can't see the science thing, but
he got science ridiculous. Over like 10,000.
Yeah, he kept going and eventually got to that point where he could read. He's still in this early age. He could research everything in one turn,
or zero,
or less.
Some of them,
zero. Some of them zero.
I don't know if you can
the civics for one turn.
I don't know. Can you research more than one tech per turn if the cost is zero? Like, do you just click it and it just immediately unlocks, and you click the next one and it immediately unlocks, or do you?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
In 6, you were capped at 1 tech per turn.
Yeah,
generally.
6 definitely was, but still, go through the entire trek tree in like what under 20 turns, and suddenly at the end of the era, and then the last bit he's just sitting there having to wait and wait because going through the things and having to. I think he did have to go through the text to get everything done. I think it did cap him with at least 1 or 2 per turn.
I want to say that was the case as well, but he didn't specifically show that.
Yeah, because he was sitting there and going through that, and he did say guess the end turn of the game, which is his final science at the end was 20,000
per turn.
This is like straight out of this is straight out of like a paradox exploit.
At a point in the game where the AI civs were generating like what on the order of like 300 to 500.
Yeah, and he's so many more times that it's like whoa.
Yes, orders of magnitude more science and culture.
And culture.
And his
happiness, it still takes time.
His happiness was in the tens of thousands too.
Yeah, it kept stacking. It's just that's the thing they need to patch, that does not keep stacking when you take it in and take it out.
Definitely not intended behavior.
No, but it was fun to watch him destroy the numbers once again on a Civ game.
Yeah, that kind of stuff is fun to do like one time, but it trivializes the game so much that it's
you have to train yourself. No, I know that was easy, but don't do this now. Don't do this in a multiplayer game. Oh my gosh.
Well, and
it takes the meaning out of any other choice you make in the game, basically.
Yeah.
Well, and another interesting thing that came up in this video, which he didn't talk a lot about, but which I alluded to earlier, is with the scout visibility bug. One of the things that he was able to do with that was increase the scout's visibility to the point where he could see onto the other continent. And
I did.
And one of the things that he was able to see was a city-state. And one of the things that you can do once you see a city-state is you can start befriending them. And once you befriend them, you can potentially annex them and build units there. Or you can levy their units.
Oh,
which
yes,
means...
and then he was seeing these resources, the distant lands, but he couldn't use them yet because he wasn't supposed to be there.
Right.
At least they kind of thought of that.
But well, it said that. Who knows whether or not you actually can. But the thing that I'm getting at is, hypothetically, if you were to annex one of those city-states on the other continent and build an army, you can wipe out all of the civs on the other continent in the ancient era and potentially be the only civ standing in antiquity. And not even...
And how is that not a military victory?
Right. And then going back to Phil's question from earlier, is that a victory? Does that end the game? Or do you have to go through the exploration age and the modern age as the only civilization in the game?
That should be the next video, is him doing that to see what happens.
Spiffing Brent, if you're listening, there's your next video idea.
Or get one of the Civ guys like Potato or Ursa Ryan to do it.
It should end the game, but who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, the way that the ages and victories work now, I don't know. All right, was there anything else fun in that video that we want to mention before we go?
I think we pretty much did the summary version, but you should still go watch it.
Oh, of course. I always recommend Spiffing Brit's videos. They're always great. I also love
when it's not Civ, they're still hilarious.
Yeah, I also love his... speaking of which, I love his City Skylines videos, too. He did one where he built a city where he was... Not only was he not taxing anybody, but he was subsidizing everybody. Like, giving 10% back. Giving anti-taxes. And still had a massively profitable city because of a bug that allowed him to export water off the map and get like billions of dollars for it. Yeah.
Why don't we just exploit in real life, man?
I know, right?
I was going to say, I swear there's probably someplace in real life that's done something like this.
Unfortunately, we're beholden to real physics.
Yeah.
So we can't do some of the things you can do in games. My personal favorite was some of the stuff you could do in RimWorld in the past. That just like completely trashed the laws of thermodynamics. Like you could like grow trees to produce fuel that allows you to grow more trees. Like in a closed system. Which I guess isn't technically violative if you could, because you're extracting some energy from outside the system, but like it's ridiculous. Like the efficiency on those trees is incredible.
Yeah.
But a more extreme example of that is you could have cows in like ice sheets, because if you laundered the milk from cows through a nutrient paste dispenser, it was possible to feed the cows with their own milk in a net food positive loop.
Wow.
And that's not a thing in reality.
I was going to say, that should not work.
I mean,
it's because nutrient paste was like, it's efficient from a nutrition standpoint. So like you could convert foods into more like nutrient efficient stuff in gameplay purposes. And it was like slightly positive to convert milk into nutrient paste and then just use that for both your ponds and the cows.
Yeah, I mean, the case of the trees, like at least in that case, you say that because of photosynthesis, the Earth is not a closed system, right? It gains energy from the sun.
Oh, I was leaving out the part where you were growing them indoors, though, using a solar lamp.
Well, that changes everything.
Yeah.
Underground with a grow lamp. Yeah.
I mean, they're still like getting stuff from the soil, so it's not 100% closed, but there's no friggin' way that you could use a sun lamp to grow trees that would then fuel the sun lamp by cutting down the trees.
Right. Okay.
And like have a net positive energy from that. Not in reality. Not even kind of close. But yeah, the cow example is just more egregious because it is a strictly closed loop.
Yeah, video games.
You can make infinite heat in that game too.
All right. Well, I think that is going to about wrap it up for PolyCast episode 444. Once again, I am your host, Mega Bears fan, joined as always by Makalua.
Time to go exploit some more laws of physics in video games.
And the Mian team.
My scouts, which are medium creatures, stand on the shoulders of other scouts.
And super special guest star, my 3-year-old.
I want the hum num too.
All right, everyone. Talk to you later.
All right. Yeah. See ya.
All right.